Hey everybody, Bobby Medina here with my very dear friend, the great Paul Barron, and we are bringing you some Las Vegas trumpet aces here. You saw our good friend Danny Falcone the other day on the interview, and lots of nice comments and all that. We appreciate that, and we're going to let Danny take over here and introduce our first and our esteemed guest today.
Yeah, so I'm proud to introduce, not only is he was my teacher, continues to be he'll be my teacher forever, but Tom Porello is probably one of the greatest of all time lead trumpet players. Bobby Shue calls him his hero. He's in the same ether as Conrad Gazzo and Johnny Odino and those folks. In fact, he worked with a lot of those guys in LA. He was in that section with Audino and all the guys from Tootie's Trumpets. He's been in every band you can imagine, which we'll get into. But again, I wanted to introduce Tom Porello to y'all.
All right, welcome, Tommy.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Tom, I think everybody'd be really interested in hearing how you started out and how you were featured at 13 years old with Stan Kenton's band, with Maynard and Buddy Childers, and like to hear that story and how you got to that point by the time you were 13 years old.
Okay, well, I started on drums when I was 8, and then at 11 I started the trumpet. My father had two bands. One was a big band that called them dance bands back in those days, and then he had the Italian Feast Band, which is everything. The music he has, all manuscript music. And it's not only marches, they're actually operas written for a brass band. So I joined that band with my father, and we used to play. We'd start at 8 in the morning and start a parade, which you don't march in step in an Italian band, you just walk. And they carry the state thing, and they pin the money to it. So we would do that 8 till noon, and we'd go back at 1, play 1 to 5. Then we go back at night and play from 8 to midnight, and then play Italian dance numbers while they shot the fireworks.
Wow.
And the next day you did the same thing. and it was the same 4 trumpet players.
Wow.
So that was you built some chops on
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Do they still have that tradition today?
They have some. Back in. I'm from Pennsylvania originally. Yeah, back in Pennsylvania, there's one, I think, still an Italian band that does that kind of thing. And I guess in New York they still have some feast bands. I don't know, but that was trying to jump a little bit ahead. I'll get to the Funny Girl and all that stuff. But when we went to open Funny Girl to open it in Boston. I decided that I was going to grab Armando Gatalla to take some lessons. So I went over to Armando Gatalla, and he had me play, and he played something. And he says, could you do that again? I said, yeah, okay, I did it again. And he goes, how did you do that? Armando Gatalla's asking me. I was like, but anyway, he said, tell me a little bit about your background. So I said, well, I was born into a musical family. My father had an Italian band. We played all the feasts. He said, that's enough. That's it. So it was a chop builder. We didn't know. We didn't know the difference. Just, you're supposed to play all those hours. You just played.
Yeah.
And then how did you get into playing with Stan Kenton? What was the story with that when you were featured with him?
Yeah, well, my father he bought a music store finally. He was a hard worker, man. He worked during the day, he worked at night, and he had the music store. One of the promoters was running in, and they said they were bringing Stan Kenton, and would your son like to play with the band? Well, I idolized Stan Kenton at that point. So Stan Kenton actually made an appearance at my father's music store, and he talked to me, and he said, make sure you go to college. But I said, yeah, I'd love to play with the band. So I did. And it was, again, when, sometimes ignorance is bliss. I got to play with Stan Kenton. I didn't get nervous or anything else. I just got up and started playing. But with the chops thing, Danny, I think you know this. By the time I was 13, I had a good G.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. In fact, I think you ended on a high G, right? On the end of that Stan Kenton thing.
I'm not. I have to listen to it. It's been so long.
I think like the trumpet section, who was in the trumpet section? I think they were pretty impressed with you at that point.
Yeah, well, it was Buddy Childers, Connie Condoli, Maynard, and I don't remember the name of the other guys. But when I saw that bus pull out, I was drooling. After the gig was over, and I said, "Damn, I want to play lead with that band someday in my life." And damn if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So you were 13 then at that time at the time of this story, is that right?
Yes.
Wow. That is amazing. That's something that's got to leave just such a powerful impression, on you for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah.
How did you get out to Vegas?
Well, I was doing a Funny Girl in New York. Actually, my first band was Larry Elgart, and then I got Stan Kenton. And when I got back from the Kenton tour, the contractor in New York hired me to do Funny Girl with Barbra Streisand. And I did that we broke it in Boston, and we broke it in Philadelphia, and then finally on Broadway. And I was a little bit young for a Broadway show, I thought. And I got a call.
How old were you at that time?
20, 24, 23. 24.
Wow.
I thought he was going to say 13 and a half.
Yeah.
No, so anyway, I got a call from Harry James, and Jiggs Wiggum, who was my roommate on the Kenton band, he got a Broadway show too. He had an apartment right across the street from ours. And we used to put each other on. He'd call me up and say he was Doc Severance, and I call him up and say I was telling him I was Herbie Green. So we put each other on. So I got a call from Pee Wee Monty, who was the manager of Harry James, and I said, "Yeah, and this is Charlie Spivak." So that's what was Jigs. So he said, "No, this is it," and he offered me the gig, and he said, "Think about it." I called him back. I said, I turned it down. I said, I have a hit Broadway show. Hey, how do I know that Harry's going to like what I do or anything? So they called me back again, and they offered a little more money even, and I turned it down again. And the third time, they kind of made me an offer I couldn't refuse. It was really a really good salary for how long ago that was. That was 1964, because that was Stan Kenton in '63. It was 1964, and then they also, after a little while, Harry, manager, came up and they offered me a contract with a 40-week guarantee. Which the only people in the band that had that was Buddy Rich and myself.
Wow.
So that was nice.
So can I interject real quick, because I know this kind of a little bit of this story. I'd like to hear a little more. I think everybody would. So you were on the band with Buddy. There was an audition, right? Wasn't there an audition where Buddy Rich kind of screwed with you to see if you'd be okay?
No. All the bands I ever played with, I had no rehearsals at all with. You just walk in cold. That's right. You sit there and you play or you don't play. And no sending parts to you beforehand and any of that stuff. Back in those days, you just go in and sight read it cold. No, well, the first night I flew in from New York, and they picked me up in Reno, took me to Lake Tahoe, and I had a really good night. I was on top of everything. And Buddy, he had a little break, 4 or 5 beat drum fill somewhere, and he had the ability to turn the time around and turn it right back around on your entrance. And he threw me off. And he and Harry, they thought that was the funniest thing that ever.
Oh, okay. And in that band, he used to have, right, a lead and a split lead, and eventually, from my understanding, because you were so strong, he wanted you to play all of you were the first guy that played the entire lead book for Harry. Is that correct?
Yeah, with the exception of very few. One guy had one, the other guy might have had at the 2 or 3, they were there before I got there, and he just left them was there. But I played all of it. And like with Stan Kenton, you couldn't play. You couldn't pass a part. That was part of the rule. You need to play. You need to play all the leads when you're the lead player. It's kind of tough to do when you got 4 mellophones, 5 trombones, and 5 trumpets to sit on top of.
Yeah,
But that
absolutely. Well, so how long? Sorry, Paul. I'll let you go.
Oh, I was just going to ask, how long were you on the road with each of those bands, Elgart and Kenton?
Well, Elgart, we did was just like about maybe a year, But a lot of the times it was just like we went out on a 6-week tour, and the rest of it was like weekends and stuff. With Stan, funny story with Stan. I was working at the Roseland Ballroom in New York with a society band from Chicago, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, after I got home from that, that's when I got the call to meet Stan Kenton the next morning. So at the highest note I had to play with the society band was an A above the staff, and the next night playing with Stan Kenton, there's quite a change. But I was with Stan for the one tour. Actually, not all of it. Stan went on 9-month tours, and he had 2 months. Another player did it, and he just. When I got there, I thought, well, what did I get myself into? His chops were just mangled. And I thought, well, this is what I always wanted to do, so let's do it. So I was with that for one tour, and I would have gone out again, but Stan broke up the band after '63. He broke the band up for quite a while after that.
Well, just because you mentioned this guy got his chops mangled, I know that Danny had told us he had a little bit of issues, and I think we've all had these issues when you go out on the road. Sometimes it starts to feel different than when you're in a more controlled environment. Have you experienced any of those things, or you've just gotten off scot-free?
Pretty much scot-free.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's not
I guess
fair.
we got to start playing 15 hours a day, guys.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I used to play in my dad's music store with no air conditioning back east in my underwear. And I used to do it literally between 6 and 8 hours a day.
Wow.
But, to play lead for Stan Kenton, too, you have to really trust yourself because sometimes there's such a dissonance going on. If you got a high F, you better make sure because you might have an E right next to you. So you got to really know. You have to put a lot of trust in what you're doing.
So Tom, being a lead trumpet player for that, I mean, that's like the ultimate job. These played. You were with him, you were with Woody. At such a young age, did you already have a concept of what you wanted, like in your head? Were you already formed, like this is how I'm going to play lead trumpet, or were you evolving? As you joined these bands, were you learning things from other guys that you were listening to, prior to you joining the band, or had you already kind of formed, this is my thing and this is what I'm going to do? You know what I mean?
Well, not when I was young. I just played. When I got a little older, like Gazzo was my favorite. I used to love the way Gazzo played. But by the time I reached I left out one thing here. After I got out of the Navy, I was with the United States Naval Academy Band in Annapolis for 4 years, and that was I played lead with the jazz band, which was the best the Navy had at that time, and then I was a soloist with the concert band. I used to play all those Mendez and Herbert L. Clark solos, which I've been trying to work again on now that we can't go anyplace. But I know I didn't try to copy anybody. I just went straight ahead. I never gave him much thought.
So what was your transition from Funny Girl then out to Vegas?
Well,
The steps between.
I'm sorry, the what?
Oh, I was just wondering your transition from Funny Girl out to Las Vegas, and you spent time in LA as well.
Yeah, well,
Tell us about that.
okay. Well, I left Funny Girl to join Harry James, and I stayed 5 years. And then after Harry, I toured with Vic Damone, he was really a good singer, and he had terrific charts. But Jay Hill, and he had a lot of really good charts. And I stayed with him, and then through him, I had a couple of nice features that I played, and the band leader for the Hollywood Palace television show at ABC Television heard me and offered me the job to go to LA. Again, like with Harry, I went to Vic. I said they called me, and I turned it down. And the second year, he called me again, and that time I took it. Because it was always like I wanted a reality check. Am I good enough for the studios? I mean, that's the epitome. You know, those guys are something else. So I went and to see if I was good enough, and I found out it worked out. I was good enough because I had 3 shows at ABC, and plus I was doing about at least 4 recording dates a week. So it worked out pretty well. But the biggest reason I came back to Vegas, I couldn't stand living in the big city anymore. Vegas was little back then.
Tom, tell us what shows you did in LA and who was in the trumpet section for those shows.
Okay, well, the first one we did was Tom Jones with a big band, and well, we had a nice Italian trumpet section. We had John Odino, Ray Triscari, Jimmy Zito, and me.
Wow.
That was the trumpet section for Tom Jones, and I'll tell you, everybody in that section played with a pretty big sound. Johnny Spence was a conductor. He threw a downbeat, and I swear to God, he dropped a baton out of his hand. That trumpet section did. I mean, it was boom, man. They ended up putting plexiglass in front of us. But anyway, then the other one I did was Hollywood Palace, which was the last of the live TV shows. No pre-record, no nothing. You know, if you make a clam, it's on. I did that, and that trumpet section included Ray Triscari, Manny Klein, Sweets Edison, and myself. And then Pat Paulson, Half a Comedy Hour, was just a small band. Just had 2 trumpets, Connie Condoli and myself. And you want to hear a funny story about that one?
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. The theme for Pat Paulson had a piccolo trumpet, and piccolo trumpet was kind of just coming in commercially at that time. And they gave the part to Conti, and he had the piccolo, and he said, "Oof," he said, I can't play. This is way too high." He said, "He can," points to me. I had never played a piccolo trumpet in my life. I didn't know anything about how the fingering. So I had to come up with something. So I said to the contractor, I said, "Look, this is not my horn and stuff. So can you give me about 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so, and let me just play it a little bit?" "Yeah, sure." I grabbed Connie. I said, "Show me how to play this damn thing." So Connie gave me a quick lesson on it. Connie gave me a quick lesson on it, and God, until the day he passed, he kept telling me about this. That's what we discovered. Conti and I used the same mouthpiece.
Oh, really?
A Bach 10 and 3/4 CW. And every time he'd see me, even Vegas, when he used to come, and I'd show up at the Riviera, he'd go, hey, Tom, you and I are the only 2 guys in the world that play that mouthpiece." So after that, I moved back to Vegas. I couldn't make the scene. I lived in the same house with my kids. I didn't say good morning to them because I was gone. I didn't say good night to them because I still wasn't home. So I thought, this is not for me. I'm going back to Vegas, a nice little town, less money. There was only about 65,000 people in Vegas then. Now there's almost 3 million. And that's why I came back to Vegas.
And did you have a show that you were immediately plugged into when you came back to Vegas?
Yeah, I was at the International Hotel, which later became the Hilton. We had a terrific lineup there. We had Tony Bennett, Elvis, Barbra Streisand. We had a good stable of people working there. And I stayed there for about 5 years, and then I switched to the MGM Hotel, and we really had a good lineup there because it was all Frank, Dean, and Sammy all worked there. So I didn't work them as a Rat Pack, but I worked them individually.
Wow, that is cool.
How long were the rotations of Sammy and Frank and those guys? How long would you do each of the runs of the shows?
I stayed at the MGM for about 13 or 14 years.
Wow.
And And when the acts came in then, they usually came in some for 2 weeks and some for a month. 2 shows a night, 8 and 12.
Wow.
So it's a pretty demanding thing. If you want me to ask me something about playing, but if I'll lay one more thing on you, but Danny will testify to this. There was so much work in Vegas when I moved back that I was doing 6 shows a day at 3 different hotels. I'd start at 4 in the afternoon and 6 o'clock with a small band called Latin Fire, 2 trumpets, Carl Saunders and myself. Then I went to the International at 8 o'clock, ran to the Riviera at 10 o'clock with Vic Limon, back to the International for a midnight show, and back to Vic Limon at 2 a.m. So I leave the house at 2 in the afternoon and get home at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Sounds
That's
like
how much work. That's how much work.
Sounds like
What's
the
that?
same schedule you did with your father's band.
Yeah.
You were ready for it.
Yeah, and then it was they'll build you some chops. It'll either build you some chops or it'll break you down. One of the two. Luckily for me, the chops hung in well.
You know, a lot of people who weren't in Las Vegas don't understand the incredible amount of music that had to be played for these shows. You know, it was the pinnacle of live music, probably anywhere in the world. You know, the amount of live music that was going on in Las Vegas during these times. And you had to be like a monster to do this stuff. You know, there were only a few guys that could do it. You know, I know Bobby Shue was here, right? He for a little bit.
Yeah.
Tommy,
Charlie Davis.
Charlie Davis. You know, that caliber of guy was the only way you're going to get through these shows because it was nonstop. There wasn't a lot of rest. I mean, it destroyed many guys. I know a lot of guys that got just hammered, like the Dune show.
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't understand it. You know, they think Vegas and there's a stigma. Vegas, that music was more difficult probably than anything to play, you know, and to do 6 of them, it's Herculean. I mean, you just have no idea what that would have taken. I mean, I'm just saying, it's unbelievable. And I've heard a lot of that. A lot of my good friend, Rich Little, whose dad is Lauren Little, he played in the sections and a lot of these, and he recorded these all the time. He's got a library full of this stuff. And you listen back and it's just like, how the hell are they doing this stuff? You know, Tom, the things he would do and the sound, you know, his sound, the thing about Tommy is, you know, not only could he play, I mean, he was right. Am I right about this? You were subbing for Bud Brisbois, like he would call you in LA to play all that super high stuff.
Every once in a while I would get a call from him, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I used to get, I guess from the side, we kind of looked like each other because a couple of times the guys say, hey, it's really sounded great last night. And I didn't work last night.
Well, you know, one other guy I think that was out there, meeting Vegas, I just happened to go see him yesterday because I had him do a little work on my horn, was Mike Paulson. And he said to say hi to you, Tommy, out there. And he was out there, you know, God, you're right. There was a lot of great players out there in the day. I mean, Walt Johnson was out there.
Yeah, Walt was here.
Was Chuck Finley out there? I think he might have been out there.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys all went to LA, you know, afterwards, you know.
We all worked together. All those names you just mentioned, we always worked together somewhere.
But the thing about Tom that I wanted to say is, you know, not only could he play F's above double high C, right, which he doesn't like to do, but he can do it and shake windows doing it. His sound is so, the thing about him, I think that why everybody is drawn to having him in their band, his sound is the kind of sound we all aspire to have. I mean, it's the biggest, most beautiful sound. So when he plays lead trumpet, it's not just fire. I mean, there's a lot of that. It's beautiful, you know, and his phrasing is incredible. And my buddy Rich and I, Rich Little, we would go to see him play at the Four Queens. Every Monday night there was a jazz night at the Four Queens Hotel. And there'd be different bands. Sometimes it'd be Don Menza's big band or sometimes it'd be Freddie Hubbard or whatever. But whenever Tom was there, we would go and we would walk around the back of the room, right? And I swear to goodness, no matter where we stood, it felt like Tom was pounding us right here, bang! And we could go to the other side of the room and it sounded like it, you know, it's so directional, but so giant. It was really, it's just marvelous, man, to hear him. And I, you know, a lot of people, because he chose this path to come to Vegas, he may not be as well known to the masses as Gazzo or some of these other guys, but he's equal in that ability and sound. And I mean, I just want everybody to try to find all his stuff and listen to him, because I'm telling you, man, he's just the greatest, you know.
Do you have some favorite recordings that you're on, Tommy?
Yeah. Well, when I was with Stan, he didn't use, he records an album at the end of every tour, but he did a one featuring a singer on this one. So yeah, it's just a tune called Quesas. There's a thing, the band's, you know, screaming loud, and I had to play a high C to an F, high C to a G, high C to an F, high C to a G. And we did it, and we recorded it at Capitol Records. Nobody has a mic. They hung one mic in the back of Capitol Records. That's how we recorded it. And there was no punch in, no punch in, none of that. So 13 takes I had to do.
Wow.
I had to do that thing.
And they took the 13th one for the record, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, what was it? I forgot. What was the question he had?
Other favorite recordings of yours?
Oh yeah. I recorded with Woody Herman. They called me at Bill Byrne was the manager of the band, and Bill Byrne was in the Naval Academy band with me, and he called about 2:30 in the morning one night. He said, "Can you get out of?" I was working at the hotel. Can you get out of the hotel, jump on a plane, and get the first plane to San Francisco tomorrow? We're recording in Oakland. And I said, well, okay. I called the band leader and said, yeah, go ahead. So I flew in. He picked me up at the airport. We went directly to the studio, and I recorded two of the tunes on the King Cobra album. And there's one of them called Toothless Grin.
I know that very well. That sounds great.
That's got a really, really kick butt out course thing. Usually, you know, you're probably the same way. Usually when I play something, I go, I could have done that a little bit better. But that one I'm actually pretty happy with, that Toothless Grin thing. Yeah.
Wow,
So
that's cool.
And the one before it is Come Rain or Come Shine. Those two I did with that album. Then I stayed with Woody until they found somebody. So I was just out for 2-3 weeks or a month, whatever it was. And it's another funny story about that. I said to Bill Byrne, I said, when Woody has a new lead trumpet player, he doesn't call Caledonia or anything like that. You familiar with Caledonia?
Oh yeah.
Thing starts on a double C. He said, never. Fourth tune. He called it the fourth tune.
Oh, Apple Honey? Was that the one?
Apple Honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chase played the recording of that. By the way, when I was with Vic Damone, when I left Vic Damone, I got Chase to take my place with Vic Damone. We were buddies. Chase and I were good friends.
So Danny,
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead
And finish off, Tommy.
I was going to say, you'll say who was in Vegas. Bill Chase was in Vegas for a long time too. That's where he started his band, right here.
Yeah, I had heard from a buddy of mine. I think, Tommy, you know him. Brad Allison was in Vegas for a while.
Yeah.
And Brad said that he would go and see Chase, and he had the shirt unbuttoned down to his belly button, and chicks that would tear his shirt off. And
well, that was persona. That was Chase, man. You know,
Yeah.
he carried himself like that. But he was a nice guy. We used to have a go around. He's Italian, I'm Italian, and Tommy Anastas, the baritone player, is Greek, and we used to have a go around. One night they'd come to my house to eat, and I'd cook. When we go to Tommy Anastas, he's Greek, he would cook. Then we go to Chase's apartment, and he'd cook. So we had a little round robin going with that.
So,
Nice.
Danny, tell us about how you first started studying with Tommy. I mean, you guys have got decades of history together.
Yeah. Well, I met, like I said, so I don't know if you remember Jim Trimble. He was the lead trombone player with Buddy Rich's band. So he was here. And so he and my friend Rich Little, whose dad is Lauren Little, who's a phenomenal trumpet player and eye surgeon here in Vegas. We were buddies, and I was studying with Dave Banks, I think I mentioned that in my interview, and Dave was fantastic. And I can't remember how it happened, but something happened when Dave left or something. I couldn't study with him anymore. And they said, man, you got to study with Tommy Porrello. I didn't know who he was, you know. And they were older than me, a year older, each of them. And they had already been studying with him. So they said, why don't you come? Now, I had to audition to study with him, right? So I remember I went out there and I was playing, I guess I was playing pretty good for my age at that time. And he had me go through, I went to his house and he had me go through some R band stuff and some Schlossberg. And I guess he took pity on me and said, yeah, all right, you can join my studio, you know. And so I did, and I studied with him all through high school and into college. And, you know, we never worked on any, Tom was all about fundamentals. So it was always like St. Jacobs, Schlossberg, our bands, Clark, you know, all that stuff. We never, and I wanted to play, you know, I wanted to be like Maynard, you know, and he didn't want to work on that. He said, no, that'll come. You don't work, you know, that'll come. You get this stuff down, that'll be there. And I didn't even know at the time that Tom was a lead trumpet player. I didn't know anything about him. And I remember one day I went to your house, Tom. I got there early. Sometimes I would have to ride my bike, but most of the time my parents would drop me off. And I got there about 10 minutes early or something. I could hear him. He had a practice room in the front of the house by the front door. And I could hear him playing, and he was playing Carnival of Venice. And I sat and I didn't knock on the door. He didn't know I was there, and he was playing, and he, you know, was killing it. I mean, just ridiculous, all the technical stuff. And then he ended by F, high F, F above double C. And it was like, I remember the window went on the air pressure, right? So I'm freaked out. I knock on his door. He opens the door. He says, oh, hey, and go on in and get warmed up. So I went in the room, and the thing's open. The barbarian book is open. And so he comes in, and I said, oh, what's this? You know, playing dumb. He says, oh, I was just playing through. I haven't played this since I was at the Naval Academy. Right. And he played it, and it was like unbelievable, you know, and I'm just going, oh my God, what did I get myself into? You know, it was incredible, man. Just incredible. And I learned so much. I mean, I can't say enough about him. He's, you know, just greatest of everything.
Wow. That's a great story and a great tribute.
Let me tell you, Danny was one of my top students.
One of what? What's that? What?
Yeah. It took a little doing, but I got you going there. You were one of my favorites, and also Kenny Rampton is one of my students.
Oh wow, he's another great player.
And then Pat Hessian was a student of mine. Patrick, you were good friends with him, right, Danny?
Yeah, we brought him to Vegas. We're the ones who brought him and got him hooked up. Yeah. And John and Little, those were all students of Tom's, and all great players, you know.
I got to ask Tom a question here, because I know everybody's in the group's probably wondering this and thinking about it, you know, with your background in playing and everything you've done, and with what you've accomplished just playing wise on the instrument. I mean, do you feel like you're a natural player, or do you feel like you've had to really just claw your way to get to the top where you've been, you know, where you are, especially with your range and all of that? Is that something you feel? I mean, how did you develop all of that?
I have no idea how I developed all that, but I think that was, I think, a little bit of a gift, you know, to have a G at age 13. I think this, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people who have done that too, but that was I think a gift. Some say the jaw, you know how some guys say get your jaw out.
Yeah.
Mine jets out. That's the way it's built. So maybe I had got a little break on that. But no, the other part was just pick and shovel. You know, just pounding away and just playing every day. And that I worked hard on. But the range, that was, I think, that was a God-given gift.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I know, like even Wayne Bergeron, I think when he was like 11 years old, he had told me he could already hit a double C, you know.
But, well, he had me beat by a little bit.
Well, I'm just saying.
Oh. So Tommy, I know you've got a million funny stories. Pick a couple that are your funniest.
Well,
Or Danny
I'll give you,
Pronto?
I don't know which is the funniest. With Harry James once, he would do crazy things, like we were doing a live TV show, and it was with the band, and we're playing something. We had about a three or four beat rest, and we're live on TV before the last chord, and he turns around and he goes, grab a G, grab a high G. Well, no, you couldn't set for it or anything, but you do it, and I got it. That was the end of that. That was good. When I did Funny Girl, I had just gotten off the Kenton band, and Dick Perry was Mr. Broadway. He was a great trumpet player. Do you know him, Dick Perry?
I don't know the name.
Yeah, he was on the Tonight Show also, but he was Mr. Broadway. He would get hired by the Broadway producers, not the musical contractor. And I had just gotten off the Kenton band, and we were rehearsing the band in Boston, and I at the end of the overture, I put a double D on it. And he looked at me real calm and looked at me in the face and said, "Don't ever do that." I bit. I said, "Never." He said, "No, never." But he wasn't mean nasty about it. He goes, "If you do that, they're going to want it every single night. Are you ready to do that? And if you have a sub, they're going to expect it from him. So don't do it." So that was good advice. That was good advice.
It's great job security if you're the only guy that's doing it.
Yeah, but just think about all the double Ds you'd have to be playing now, Paul.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
that would I would have liked that.
I'll tell you,
have enjoyed that.
Story about that. So when Lady Gaga was coming to Vegas, so her trumpet player Brian Newman came out and he was auditioning everyone, and then he came out to hear Santa Fe, my band, and we ended up all getting hired that night as he heard us, which was really nice. And so he said to me, he said, "All right, who would you want in your section?" So he was more interested in making sure that it was this, and he asked every single person that he hired. So he hired me to play the lead trumpet, and then he hired Gil Kaup and Jason Levi, and all of us said Tommy Porrello. So he hired Tom. So Tom is playing with Lady Gaga. So imagine that, you know what I mean? Like the hippest thing you could do. And here he is playing it. And so we open with Luck Be a Lady. And so every single night, Tom picks off a double high C sharp at the end of Luck Be a Lady. Every night.
Wow.
It's just devastating. Like I'll play it too, but when Tom plays it, it's like, what's the point? I'll just go. How old are you now, Tom? Can we say?
82.
82 years old, and he'll crush it.
But not in my head. I'm not in my head. I'm 82. I don't ever think about age ever.
Yeah.
I'm just going straight ahead, and I still play at home every day. And everybody says, "Oh, at your age, you still have those chops." Yeah. Well, I sit here every day and pound 2-3 hours, too. My health has been good. That's a good gift, but I'm still working at it.
Yeah, we got to work at it forever. What kind of things are you practicing in your daily routine? Tell us about that. What do you do?
Well, I've never had a routine from the time I was a kid. I don't do, some people it works fine. They have to have a routine. Number one, I'm not much of a warmer upper. When I go out on the gig, I put a harmony mute in. I play for like a minute, 2 minutes, and I'm ready to go. I don't have to wait, do a whole thing. Everything else. Like Denny said, I change around. There's Arbin, St. Jacobs, Schlossberg, Chalier, Smith Top Tones. You're guys familiar with that book? That's not a very popular book. It's called Smith Top Tones.
Oh yeah, I have that.
Yeah, they're nice. They wait to get nice and tired, and they put a high D or a high F to make you play. And then there's another book I have. It's like, I don't know, 15 Etudes or something. It's from the Paris Conservatory, stuff like that. And then I have a Count Basie charts. I have a lot of Sinatra's book if I want to play that kind of stuff. I have from different shows I played if I want to pound away with that. But most of the time I do like I don't do that stuff. I just play like the basic stuff.
Well, that's
So
good.
tell us,
That's the fundamentals.
tell us
One other
about
thing.
your time with Frank Sinatra.
Well, Harry James. They put a show together with Sinatra and Harry James because Sinatra's first gig was with Harry James. So they put that together at Caesar's Palace, and I had left the band already, and Harry came down to see Vic Damone, and I was getting my car ready to go back to the International for the midnight show, and he always called me Babes. Hey, Babes, we're going into the thing. You want to come back and do it? I said, yeah, I love to do that. He said, great. So we used to fly to L.A. and rehearse, and then fly back and work at night here, and fly to L.A. and rehearse with Sinatra. And right after that, he worked at Caesar's Palace. After I did it with Harry's band, he used to ask for me every time he came to Caesar's. And then that was really in the first. We all know like Charlie Davis came in after me, Walt Johnson came in, and they were all great players too, you know. But I think I was probably the first one that he started calling for here in Vegas because of the exposure with Harry James. And to play with him, the charts are you can't get any better charts. It's not the charts. There's nothing that intricate. Everything's just nice, right in the pocket, and you can just sit back and let it fly. Wonderful, great fun. And we did. I think I actually did his last concert. It was in Fukuoka, Japan, with he and Natalie Cole. I think that was the last full concert Frank did.
Wow, that's something. So how was Harry James to work with? Was he a nice guy, a nice band leader? I mean, he was a great trumpet player,
If he liked it, he was really nice. He liked me a lot, luckily. So we always got along really well. He was nice. There's a difference. Stan Kenton, he was like your father. He would hug you, man. We once played in L.A. and it was a little club, and I was playing lead trumpet with the band, and there was a hallway with a door, and behind me was Connie Cadoli, Pete Cadoli, Dalton Smith. All these guys were standing right behind me. I was playing. We got done with the gig, and Stan came over and gave me a big kiss. He said, "That's the hardest thing to do in life, to play with those guys looking over your shoulder." But he made you feel like family. And then Woody was cool too. Woody was great to work for. Harry was real nice, but he left a little bit of space. You always knew it was Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Can you tell us a little bit about?
But
I didn't hear the question,
Oh,
Dan.
Tom went out and did some really pretty big gigs with Elvis, including the Hawaii TV show. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that, Tom.
Yeah, well, we actually, when I was at the International, when Joe Gershow took over, that's when I moved back from LA to join that band. Elvis came in, and he had no charts to speak of. It had like how Nashville they write on napkins, the chord changes and stuff like that. Yeah, almost nothing. I had a couple bars over here and something written over here. And we actually did a movie called That's the Way It Is, or That's the Way. Yeah, it was like a documentary. It was filmed at the International, played in movie theaters, and it was a feature film. And we had like no charts. Gershow would yell out to the trombones, lay down some pads, trumpets, play something. And we did a whole movie like that. And if you could look, Dick Albert was the second trumpet player. And if you could see that movie, he looks at me, and if you could read his lip, he goes, "Where are we? What are we doing?" And you could see me go. You could see me go like this. I don't know. Just play something. Let's glad come up with a lick or something, and they'd all join in and play it. But anyway, after that, then Elvis went on a trip. They took, with that kind of music, they decided last minute to do a road trip. They took Joe Gershow as a conductor and me as the trumpet player, period. And what did they do? We worked with the Detroit Symphony. They want everything spelled out. They're phenomenal players. I just had to tell him, say, look, I can't help you. Just whatever I'm doing, just try to grab something that's close to what I'm playing. That's all I can tell you. But then Joe, he had everything written out, and we did the Aloha from Hawaii, and that went around the world. That was done live, and it was around the world. That thing, that was something. That was Pat Hesh. That's Pat. That was I was playing lead, and Pat Houston was playing second. Gary Grant was playing third, and because he happened to be in Hawaii at the time, and I think it was John Madrid was playing fourth because he was in Hawaii also, and that was nice. We went for 10 days. We rehearsed 2 days and did the shows live starting at midnight, and we were done. And my wife hasn't let me live that down yet. Why didn't I take her on that trip? Because I told her, we're going to be so busy, you won't want to, you're not going to enjoy yourself. We'll be so busy. We work 3 days out of 10. So.
Yeah. Well, Johnny Madrid was another Vegas guy too, right?
Yeah, he was here also. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard some amazing recordings with him as well.
It's kind of like a lot of guys from here ended up in LA. Chuck Finley and I left Vegas the same week to go to Vegas.
Left LA the same week? Is that what you mean?
LA the same week, yeah. We left to go to LA the same week. And Chuck used to come to my house all the time because the house I rented had a pool table, and we'd shoot pool and drink a gallon of wine.
Wow. Well, you know, I could listen to this forever, and I make it out to Vegas every now and then, man. Next time I come out, I'll give you guys a heads up because I gotta hear some more stories. But this has been fantastic spending a little time.
Can I show you one thing you might be interested in?
Sure, absolutely.
Harry gifted me with his horn. I was at the band 5 years, and he played this horn for about 4.5 of those 5 years, and he played it on the 3 albums that I recorded with the band. And one night, he used to get trumpets, and he'd try them, he'd pass them back to me, and if he didn't like it and I didn't like it, he'd send it back. And one night he passed his back to me, and I played it, and then when I got off, I said, "That yours is good, I like that." And about a month or 2 later, I was getting off the bandstand at the Flamingo. We used to do 4 sets a night. Get off, and he just said, "Here, this is for you." And he handed me a trumpet. Here it is. I'll show it to you.
Wow.
All right, cool.
A King Super 20 dual bore, right, with the solid silver bell.
You see it?
Wow.
Just a minute.
So what makes it a dual bore, Dan?
You know, I don't know, to be honest with you. I owned one, and
You see it?
Played big.
Yeah, hold it up again.
A little higher, Tom.
Wow, it's got his name in it and everything.
It's engraved here.
Yeah.
If you notice, the valves are off by 1. They're offset, balanced. He and Louis Armstrong both had the first. That's where the second valve is. Can you see it? I don't know where the hell it's on the thing.
Yeah.
That's the second valve. That's where our second valve is on most trumpets.
Oh yeah, right.
First, second, third. And they're lowered 1. If they go to balanced action, actually horn does actually balance better there. But Louis Armstrong also had the same thing. So that's the horn he gave me. It's something I treasure.
Do you play that? Or you don't? That's not what you play regularly, though, is it?
No, I played this for a while with Vic Damone, and then I picked up my Benj one day, and I said that was like my old pair of shoes. I like that even better than this, but it's exactly the way he gave it to me. It's got a little bit of a bend in the bell. I didn't touch it. I didn't have it like touched up to make it look exactly brand new, but this is the way you can see how he held it. So it's kind of a nice thing to have.
Sure
Yeah,
is.
that's really nice. Cool.
So Tom played a 5X Burbank bench, right, for most of his career.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, I had bought a sterling silver 37 Bach. And he wanted to make a change. He hadn't changed anything. Mouthpiece, been on the same mouthpiece his whole life, same horn. Right, Tom?
I play this. Same mouthpiece since I was in high school.
Yeah, still on that mouthpiece. But he wanted to make a change, and he played my Bach, and he liked it. So we traded horns. So I have his 5X bench that's on every one of those recordings, all that. I'm going to put it in a case. I have it all. I tried to play it, but I'm not man enough. Honest to God. You got to play. It's been worn down. In fact, I sent it to Canstel, and 3 times we did the valves trying to tighten them up because the horn is he's put so much air through it that Canstel said, if you put any pressure, you're going to crush right through the valve casings. It's so thin. All the lead, everything is blown open. The thing plays like a giant bore horn, but he made it sound so easy and so good. I try to play it, forget about it. So I'm going to turn it into I'm going to put it on my wall and encase it, but I have that horn still.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so now you're playing the Bach, and you like that then, huh, Tommy?
I like the Bach Sterling Silver. It's got it actually clicks in a little bit better than the Benge. But I still like the Benge sound.
Well,
I also like in my stomach in a way when I'm really putting out. I could feel my stomach touching my back with that Benge. I could really feel it. The Bach backs me off a little bit, which I'm not crazy about. That's the only thing I don't like about it. But everything else I like about it.
yeah, the Benges were great. I played in a drum and bugle corps when I was a kid, and we were sponsored by Benge. So I used to hang out at the factory here and there, and I got to, I met Zig and all those guys, and there's been a lot of great guys playing. In fact, yesterday, Mike Paulson showed me his Benge that he's had for years, and he's been hot rodding it and doing this and that to it, but they're so light, and so like his was. And I think his is a Claude Gordon body, at least on that thing.
Yeah, I had a Claude Gordon. I didn't like the Claude Gordon. Mine was a Burbank Benge, Eldon Benge. It's an old one.
Right.
I meant Danny, if I remember, 4762. I think is the serial number on it.
Yep. 5X. Yeah. Great horn. Sounds.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we should wrap it up, guys. I want to make sure that people come to the end of this, and we'll have to reminisce and maybe do another one of these. And but it's been really, really great to get to know you and hear your stories, Tommy. Fantastic. Thank you for spending time with us, Danny. Thanks for putting it all together, and Paul for being here too and helping out. And I hope that everybody here in the group gets a chance to. Check this out. There's a lot of great stuff, and check out Tommy's recordings and all that stuff as well. He is somebody that definitely deserves a lot more recognition.
Can I give you one more thing?
Sure.
You have time?
Yeah.
You said some funny stories. You want to know something early. Harry had passed me back his horn to play, and then he had to play something, and I was playing. So the other guy, he said, give him him. So he handed him my Benge. And he played at the Benge, and he turned around after he played. He said, "Where'd you get this? At Toys R Us?" That's it.
Great story. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being here. Really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you somewhere down the line, hopefully in the not too distant future. Thanks for taking the time with us.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for doing this. It was a lot of fun.
All right, guys. We'll see you online. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.